Hello, everybody. I'm Mike from Abnormal Investigations. Y'all know who I am. Today we're doing a premiere, which is going to be with Ellen. She's got a few different kind of encounters we're going to talk about today, and we're going to get to ask the questions, and hopefully we can get some answers, or what we don't know, I guess we can make up. But we've got Ellen here with us, and I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself and everything, and she can say hi to you all real quick.
Hello, I'm Ellen. I live in Deep East, Texas, a little county close to Rayburn and Toledo Bend, that area, Sabine National Forest, Angelina National Forest, kind of in between them. So
So you
I'm
got
ready when you
so
are.
you got a lot of trees down there, huh?
Yeah, we did.
All
It's
right.
pretty
Well,
there.
which encounter do you want to start with?
Well, we can start with the first one, I guess, and I'll just go kind of like in chronological order.
Okay.
And so the first one, I was just a kid. And well, let me give you a little backstory here first. I was raised on a 40-acre farm where the nearest neighbor was a good half mile away. And the only unwooded area was the house place and about 10 acres that Daddy used for garden and hayfield. So it was a little old dirt road. I mean, woods everywhere. And so my sister and her husband moved back from Georgia. They had lived in Georgia. He was in the Army and he had just gotten out. So they moved back to Lufkin. And they went ahead and put a little trailer on the section of land that she was going to inherit from Daddy. And she never could have children, so they did a lot of foster care because she loved kids. And she had one little girl. I can't remember the girl's name, but I know it started with an A. I want to say Amanda, but I could be wrong. But anyway, we were down at my sister's. I had went down there. I just cut through from my house to her house through the hayfield with probably 300-400 yards, maybe, And we had been down there playing and had decided to go back up to my house to play. And so we were cutting through the hayfield, and I'm a little short thing. And I was probably maybe 8 or 9 at this time. And she was like a year older than me, so she was a little bit taller, but the hay was a good 2.5 to 3 foot. It's just about ready to cut. And so my head was a little bit over the top, not a major amount. I'd say it probably hit me about mid chest. And she was up a little taller, but not much. Anyway, we're going through this hayfield back to my house. And we're talking and giggling, like any other kids. And then she says, "What is that?" And I looked, where she was pointing, and there was something. And Mike, I really don't know what to call it. We called it a monster because we were just kids, had no idea, nothing about Bigfoot or anything. And I looked over there, and this thing was squatted down in the hay, and it was head and shoulders above the hay, broad, and it was a kind of a yellowish white, dirty white looking color, and it had a smushed in face that reminded me of a pug dog. How they're all smushed in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was eating or what it was doing, but it was squatted there. And when she said that, well, it looked around, and we seen it. And of course, we're just kids. We screamed and hauled butt back to my sister's house because it was between us and my house. And I don't know if it ran off bipedal or on all fours. I know I could hear it running. But at that age, I wasn't thinking about trying to determine whether it was doing that. I didn't even want to look back, see if it was chasing me or running back to the woods. I just wanted to get out of there. And so we got back to my sister's house, and of course we're all upset and screaming and crying, and she wanted to know what was wrong. And we told her, we seen a monster because we didn't know anything else to call it. And we tried to tell her what it looked like and everything, and she said it was probably just a big dog. She just wrote it off. So we stayed there the rest of the day, and then instead of me walking back to the house like normal, I made her take my car around the road and up there. I wasn't going through that field again that day. So that was my first encounter.
Wow.
Y'all have anything to ask?
Oh yeah, I'm full of questions. So, did the face? Did it look like completely like a dog, or did it have any other characteristics to it?
It reminded me more. I mean, just as far as the shape and the look, it kind of looked kind of apish, or between ape and human. But the nose was smushed in. I remember saying it looked like a pug because the nose squished in, and you know how a gorilla's nose looks?
Uh-huh.
Right.
Put your finger on the end of one of their noses and pushed up. That's what the nose looked like.
Okay.
I mean, it looked like if he held his head backwards in a rainstorm, he'd drown. So,
Wow. Okay.
huh?
And you said it was large, right? It was pretty large.
Oh yeah, it was squatted down. It was a good 2 foot over the top of the hay. If it stood up on all fours, it would probably been a good foot off the top of the hay. And if it stood straight up, that thing would have had to have been at least 4 foot over the top of the hay, which was I would say 2.5 to 3 foot tall at the time. So that would make it, I mean, just judging by what I remember from the length of the head to the butt, which is not always seen because it was squatted down. Excuse me. It would have had to been at least 4 foot from head to butt. And I don't know, just guessing by the legs, because we didn't see it standing up, I'd say it had to be another 2 or 3 foot on the legs, So we're probably looking at about 6.5 to 7 foot.
Wow. What
And
intrigues me is the color you said it was. It was kind of a dirty white color, yellowish.
Yeah, that seems to bumfuzzle everybody I've told about it. And actually listened to me. Now, my son thinks I'm nuts. But shut up.
My first, I would call it my first like actual daytime that I saw something. What I saw, and the best way I knew how to describe it when I was little, is the ashes on the end of my dad's cigarette. How they're white, and they have the black in it, the little dots.
Yeah, kind of whitish gray.
Yeah, that was what I seen whenever I was young. I was in the back of a truck, and it was a white, kind of that white with the little bit of the dark in it. But out in the trees and stuff, it blended in really, really well.
Yeah.
Did it make any noises?
Not that I remember. I don't think it did. I don't remember hearing any noise or growls or grunts or anything. My only thing I remember actually hearing, was it running off. And it sounded pretty heavy, but, I was a kid, so I don't really know a whole lot about judging it, Right. Now, thinking back, I would say it's probably pretty heavy. So, but that was my first encounter.
Did it mess with any of y'all's animals or anything, or mess around your house or anything like that?
No, it never bothered anything, and that was the first and last time I seen it. I never saw it again. Of course, I tried to get that. My daddy did go out that evening when he came home from work and try to find some tracks, but hayfield. All he could find was, places where the hay had been pushed down and stepped on. He couldn't actually see a track. But he told me it was probably just a big dog, too.
Yeah. It sounds to
So I
me
said,
like
well, that's a big dog, then, Daddy.
Yeah.
it sounds like it was probably something passing through if you never seen it again or anything.
Yeah.
You probably ran. It sounds honestly, it sounds like what you would call a googway. Uh, you have the ape-like face, the large body, which is kind of scary because they're one of the more aggressive creatures that are really known to attack, and that they believe that are responsible for a lot of the attacks that end up being fatal, like the Brenda Hamilton and the little boy here in Oklahoma and stuff. That they blamed it on a googway was a lot of the talk. So you might have been pretty lucky on that one.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the end of that one. And the next experience I had, I guess I was probably about 15, and me and Mama had gone to town, and we were coming back. And there's a pasture at the end of the road where we turned to go to my place. This man had a pasture there, and big old cow pasture. And we come around the curve when we started slowing down, to turn into our road. And I was driving. I had my beginners. That's why I say I was probably about 15. And Mama looked over toward that hayfield. That guy's pasture, not a hayfield, it's a pasture. And she said, "Look at that." And I looked over there, and it was a UFO. It was about, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 foot off the ground and over that hay pasture. And it was kind of a blue cigar shape. It just glowed blue. I didn't see any actual lights, just glowed blue. And we slowed down and stopped to get a better look at it. And as soon as we stopped, it just took off. And it was gone. That was a very brief and quick experience there.
I think
Wow.
Brooks has had some experiences kind of like that.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few UFOs.
Well, I've seen some, I think, as UFOs, but it may be like you say every now and then. It might be just the good and evil fighting in the sky because they were way up there. But you could see them darting back and forth and moving, But that's
Right.
the only one I've seen close, up close.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling when you see them.
How big do you think it was? How big do you think? How long do you think it was? The size of it.
I would say it had to be at least 25 or 30 foot long, if not a little bit more.
Okay.
Probably about 30, 35 foot.
That's pretty good.
And I don't know how wide it was because we were looking at it from the side.
Right.
We never actually seen it, head on to see how wide it was, but it was probably about 35 foot long. And from the top of the craft to the bottom of the craft that was over the pasture, I would say it's probably about 15, maybe 20 foot thick.
Okay.
Huh. And it shot straight up.
No, ma'am. It went off kind of at an angle and right
Okay.
above the trees. And
Okay.
it was gone. That was it. You didn't see no more.
Huh.
Not even a glow in the sky. It just like it vanished.
It was gone.
Is that pretty close to where you saw the other creature? Is that kind of in the same area?
Yes, sir. It's about a half a mile down. It's right on the main road where you would turn off the main road onto our road to go up to our place. And there's like a half a mile of trees between us and the nearest neighbor, which would be that pasture. And he didn't actually live there. It was just an empty pasture. He lived somewhere else. He just kept his cows there. But I never seen any of the cows dead or anything. I don't know if they were just looking at them or they may have took one. I just never heard about it, but I
Right.
don't know. It was within a half a mile because I seen that creature at our place, and this was about a half a mile from there down the road, right where our road intersected the main road.
Did it make a noise?
I don't remember a noise. We had the windows up and the AC on, so I don't remember it making a noise.
Right.
I just remember about as soon as I come to a stop, we were looking at it. It just took off. That was
Hmm.
it.
Did it
And-
interfere with the electric in your car? Did the car turn?
No,
Nothing.
it didn't do that. It didn't interfere with the vehicle at all.
Okay.
Which that's kind of odd because I know a lot of people say they do, but
Right. Right.
And you didn't hear of any reports after that of missing cattle or anything like that?
Not that I remember hearing anything about. Of course, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to what the grown was talking about at the time.
Yeah,
So-
being 15. Yeah, you had more things on your mind at 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was rodeoing, and so my main thing was just my horses. You know, I didn't
Right.
really think about what was going on with the guys' cows down the road. You know.
And it never messed with your horses or anything?
No, that critter, he never messed with any of the cows, never messed with the horses or anything. He just scared the bejeebies out of me and that girl.
I guarantee you. Sounds like it was pretty ugly.
He was. It was ugly. It definitely didn't look like the Harry and the Henderson critter, that's for sure. But anyway, after the UFO thing went on, yeah, I got married when I was about 18. And my husband, he worked construction, so he was gone a lot. And my sister, I was telling you about, you know, on her place down there, they had decided to build a log cabin. And so they had moved the trailer out and they were building this house and living in a little camp trailer there in the front yard while they were working on it. And they had a hot tub. And so I had went down there while the guys was at work, you know, and we were sitting in the hot tub. And this was during the summer, it was warm. I don't remember exactly what month or anything like that, but we were sitting there talking just normal stuff. And across the road from us was a pasture that was owned by a lumber company. I don't know, I say pasture, it was like 300 acres of woods out there. And they had cut those trees probably about a year and a half earlier. And so the new growth that was coming in was probably about between 10 to 20 foot tall, you know, it varied. And we were sitting there, and this is right across the road. And we got to hearing this growl and grunt and beller. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a mix of all of it. I thought it was a hog. My sister, she's a city girl, and it was freaking her out. And I told her, I said, it's just an old boar. You know, they're rutting. It's a big old boar. Don't worry about it. He ain't gonna bother us. And whatever it was just kept getting closer and closer and closer, coming through the woods. And it was getting louder and louder. When it got about, I don't know, maybe 200 yards from the road, it was close enough that we could see it was moving the trees. the trees was just bouncing all over the place while this thing coming through there. And I looked at my sister and I said, that is not no hog.
Yeah.
And about that time, it stopped maybe 20, 30 foot inside the tree line. We couldn't see it, but it stopped. And there's those little pine saplings, you know, they're like 10 to 15 foot tall. The top broke out of one of them, just snapped and went over. I said, that's it, we gone. We were at that hot tub in that camper. We shut that door. She got on the phone and called her husband and told him to get his, you know what, home in no uncertain terms. Business meeting, she didn't care. He better come home now. And so he did. Bless his heart, he come home. And when he got there, we were trying to tell him, you know, what it was, what we'd heard and what happened. And she made him go out there, and we showed him, you know, the area where the tree snapped. So we told him to go out there and see if he could find it. Well, my brother-in-law, he was 6'4", about 280. He's a tall fella, you know. When he stretched his arm up, there was another 2 foot at least he could reach, you know, 8 foot easy. So he went out there and he was looking around. He found it. He found the tree that the top had been snapped out of, and he could barely reach where it was broke.
Wow.
Just the tip of his fingers would barely reach where it broke off. Now, I don't know if that was a Bigfoot, dog man, or what. It made a horrible noise that I can't even describe. Like I said, it sounded like a cross between a boar-hog and a bull beller, and something growling. It's just a weirdest noise I ever heard in my life.
Was it close to it? Was it still close to the same area that you saw the other creature?
Yes, sir. This happened about 100 yards from where we seen that first one.
Yeah, no hog is gonna snap off the top of a tree.
No.
No, when that happened, I told her that ain't no hog.
No.
Yeah.
We all but got in that camper and locked the door, and then she called her husband, told him to get his butt home.
Yeah, because a lot about what you're describing is whenever I was younger at my granny's house, whenever the granny called it Bigfoot, whenever it would come up to the house, it would stay by the windows. And of course, in the windows, she had an air conditioner in the front room, and then we had a water cooler in the bedroom. And whenever it would walk around the outside of the house, it had like that deep, like a large animal breathing, kind of like a cow kind of, but it was more gruff, and you could hear it. And, you know, it would scratch on the house. It would, you know, walk into the house. It would bang on the house. It would turn the doorknobs. We even had them climb the trees. They would climb up in the trees and look through the windows at us. So
we never had anything like that happen, thank goodness. But
it scared me to death. There was nights when I was younger down there, I would cry. I'll admit it, I would cry. And whenever mom and dad, you know, they would say we was going to go visit Granny, I would always beg them, can we please leave before dark? You know, that was the first thing out of my mouth. I wanted to go before dark because I didn't like walking out to the car, you know, in the dark, because they didn't have a yard light back then. It was just dark.
Yeah.
And I hated that.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it was our place. We never had yard lights or anything like that. So when it got dark, it was dark.
So
Yeah.
did it mess around your friends anymore after that? Did they have anything happen?
No. Well, they had a cat come through. Of course, the game wardens around here swear up and down there's no such thing as a cougar in this area, but
Yeah,
they is.
yeah.
I've seen it, and it would come through and rear up and look in the windows. Kind of freaked her out a little bit, but they never stayed long. You know, they what do they call that? Migrate, I guess. It come through about every 6 or 7 years. And that's the way the one I got here at my place now does. About every 6 or 7 years it'll come through. And DPS, game wardens still say they ain't no such thing.
Oh yeah, they do that here too. They'll tell us, there's no panthers or whatever, but
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is.
they're in Kentucky also.
Yeah. I had a mountain lion come through my yard, and they also told me there are no wolves here, and that's not true because I was sitting out on my deck and one went right through my yard, stopped in my driveway, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's a huge dog. And I got my light, and that wasn't a dog, it was a wolf.
Yeah, that was kind of like that coyote I seen here that I told Mike about. But I came back. Now I've done moved several times since then. I don't live where I grew up. I live in another little town close by, but another little town. And we've heard some strange things, and I've had things. I swear something slapped the house a couple of times because I could hear it. It would move the house, when it slap a trailer. It's not exactly tied down all that well, so it would vibrate. It would shake just a little bit, And I never could find any limbs or anything that fell out and hit the house. That's what my son said it was. I thought, okay, whatever. Just believe what you want to.
That since
from church one morning, my husband had passed away about 3 months prior. I got a little dog, the one that was mouthed off here a while ago, and I came in and I let him out to go potty when I got back from church. I come in to put my stuff down and everything, and all of a sudden I heard him just going crazy in the front yard. Now this is a about 4 month old Jack rat, little terrier. I don't know if you know what a Jack rat is or not, but they're little dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going crazy. And so I run out the front door. I didn't get no gun or nothing. I just run out the front door. And he is squared off with a coyote, the biggest coyote I swear I've ever seen in my life. But you know how tall a picnic table is?
Uh-huh.
The top. Okay, this thing was standing next to a table like that. And back was at least 4 inches over the top of that table.
Wow.
I have never seen a coyote that size. Now, he was skinny and looked like he was starving to death, but he was tall. I've never seen one that big before. And I just screamed at him to get the heck out of here. And I grabbed my dog and ran back in the house, and I never seen him again. But
wow.
That is interesting because in Texas, a lot of the reports I've been getting of people talking about the bipedal creature is they all say that it's very, very skinny.
Well, this one, he was skinny. He was on all fours, but if he had stood up, he'd have been a good 8-9 foot. He had to been if he had reared up on his hind legs for some reason.
Wow.
And
if he did, I didn't see it because I just grabbed my dog and run back in the house.
And this is all happening in the same area, right?
Within 10 miles, yeah.
Wow.
Where I live now is probably about 10 miles from where I was born and raised. It's all in basically the same area, same county, just a little different towns, communities, whatever you want to call it.
Was the color of it the same as a regular coyote?
Yeah, kind of a dirty brown. It wasn't. It didn't have no green in it, or if it did, it was very little. It looked more brown, dirty brown than anything.
Right.
It didn't have as much gray in it as most coyotes generally do around the shoulders and all, but
Right.
it was brown. That's what I called it, a coyote, because I could, it's what it looked like to me.
Right.
Right.
Is there
Did-
anything in the area that you think would cause them to come up there, like fruit trees? Is there any food or?
Well, we overrun with deer and hog, but as far as fruit trees, I don't have any, and my immediate neighbors don't have none that I'm aware of. But who knows about other places? I'm sure there is some somewhere.
What about a water supply?
Pardon?
Was there any water supply around there, a creek or river?
Yeah, there's a creek that runs through the. If you go to the back of my property, there's a
Okay.
section back there that's owned by another timber company. That come in. They cut it every so often. There's
Right.
a big creek through there, and there's a big creek just down the road from me. And I got a big old pond, and so does my neighbor. So there's plenty of water.
Yeah, sounds like it. And the creeks stay with water all year long?
Pretty much. I've got too old and too broke down with problems to go back there anymore. I'd have to walk half a mile back there to get to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to point my heart and everything else. I got too many health problems.
We'll have Mike come out there and walk back there and look.
Yeah, I'll do it at nighttime when I can tie all my lights to me so it can see where I'm at.
Yeah. The one-man band.
Direction, you can just go to the back of my property, go through that about 100 foot, take a left, and just go straight. You'll run into it.
Yeah, I won't be hard to see. I'm lit up pretty good.
Is there any fish?
Satellite, huh?
Yeah.
Is there any fish in that pond?
There should be. My husband stocked it before he passed away, and he used to fish all the time. He'd fish out on Spider Island out there. We call Spider Island this lake close to us.
Yeah.
He brought a big old blue cat in one day. It weighed like 9 pounds, I think he said. And
Yep.
he turned it loose in that pond. And so if the otters ain't got it or it ain't went over the dam in a flood, he ought to weigh about 15 by now.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Has there been any
I
kids?
told my son I need to go out there and try to catch him, sing the thing or something, see if he's still there. But that ain't gonna happen.
Has there been any kids or anyone gone missing in the area or any weird attacks or anything like that, animal attacks?
Well, no, not really. We had a woman go missing about 7 years ago, and no one has found her yet. Not a hide nor hair, no clothes, no nothing, no anything. So I don't know what area exactly she went missing from, but it was close to the Angelina National Forest down that direction where
Yeah.
she lived, and that's the area she went missing from. But I don't know if it had anything to do with something supernatural or if she just decided to disappear.
Yeah, the key word that catches my attention in that is national forest and missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have, like what Scott was talking about, you have a water supply, and the water supply is going to bring your hogs and your deer and your fish, which is your food source.
Right.
I was telling you about the water supply we got, just here in this area. Now, the lake is not but about 10 miles from us. And so you got the Angelina River and the Natchez River about 20 miles down. So there is plenty of water, plenty of deer, plenty of hog for some to eat,
Are you close to Lake Rayburn? Are you close to the Lake Rayburn?
Yes, sir, about 8 miles.
Yeah, I figured that's about the area you were talking about.
Yep.
That's a good lake.
Is that a pretty good sized lake?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's big and it's man-made. My daddy told me a story about something when they were building that, and it's a trippy too. But he was on the logging crew when they were digging that lake out years and it's been 100 years ago when they built that lake. But he was on the logging crew and they were coming out one evening just before dark, and they were all following the skidder in case they got stuck. That skidder could pull them out, you know. And so they're coming up that old road, and he said all of a sudden the skidder come to a stop, and nobody could figure out why he would stop in all that mud and everything, you know. And one of the guys and Daddy got out and went up there and asked him what was going on, and the fella just pointed out in front of the skidder, and crossing that 16-foot log road there, logging road, was a snake, a rattlesnake. It was colored up like a rattlesnake, but you couldn't see the head and you couldn't see the tail. And he said he wasn't fixing to run over it because he didn't know where that head was.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And then my sister run over a big one up here on Highway 69 going into town one day about 30, 40 years ago. And it was a good 8.5, 10 foot. We
Wow.
got some big snakes down here. But that
Yeah.
was, and Daddy, I never know Daddy tell a lie. So
Right.
I believe him.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not a snake person. I think Scott likes snakes. I don't like snakes.
I don't like them too much. As long as I can see them before they see me, I'm good.
Yeah, yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I had a friend that lived in Bogota, and they had an outdoor pool, and it wasn't fenced in, and yeah, they'd have to clean the snakes out of their pool.
Oh my Lord.
Hmm.
Can you imagine going swimming and then all of a sudden a snake crawls off in there with you? I'd drown
Oh
Yeah.
myself and then get out of there.
yeah.
Oh,
I'm not a snake person.
no. Me neither.
So did you have any supernatural like things happen with this stuff, or was it just mostly did it seem to be flesh and blood?
Well, the only ghost encounter I had, now I've seen things that I think were ghosts before, but I don't really know, can't prove it. But you know, my uncle, my dad's brother, had passed away, and we had came down to their house after the funeral. Now, we would always go down there every Sunday. We went down there for lunch after church. And my uncle would always give me a nickel to get an ice cream cone up at the Devil's Den here in Huntington. And what used to be the Den ain't that now, but 40 years ago or better, it was called the Devil's Den. About 60 years ago. Sorry. Anyway, we had went down there after the funeral, and we were sitting there, and I'm sitting in one chair. Mom and Daddy are sitting in the chair to my right, and my aunt was sitting on the couch next to my mom at the end of the couch there, you know, next to her chair. And we were all visiting. They were talking. I'm the only kid there, so I'm just sitting there. And all of a sudden, my aunt says, "What is that?" And we all look, and right there in the center of the room, about 4 foot off the floor, a nickel floated right over to where I was sitting and laid down on the arm of the chair. And I'm like, "Oh Lord."
Wow.
Yeah,
Katie gave me another ice cream cone.
He gave you one last ice cream cone. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
I would,
Oh, and Daddy, he followed us around for a while after he passed away. We moved to a little place on the river. And my dad, he loved his bacon. Lord have mercy. But and even before before we moved down there, we knew he was still in the house because you could walk in from being outside or doing whatever, and you could smell that bacon. It was like he was frying up some bacon. So, but he always wanted to live on the river, and when we moved down there, he moved with us because we could still smell that bacon every now and then cooking. But when we left there, I guess he stayed because I hadn't had any encounters with him since.
Some people I know went and stayed at the Crescent Moon Hotel, and it was like 2 a.m. They got a knock on their hotel room door, and they went and opened the door, and there was a lady dressed like back in the old days, and she had 2 ice creams in the old glasses,
Uh-huh.
and she said it was complimentary of the hotel, and gave it to my friends and everything. Well, the next day when they were checking out, they thanked the front desk, for the ice cream and everything, that it was really nice. And they said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, a maid brought us ice cream last night." And she said, "We don't have any maids that work nights here." So
yeah, that place would be creepy. I've seen some shows about that. But that used to be a funeral home or something.
there was a guy that used to work there that said he was a doctor, and he really was not a doctor, and he was taking people that had terminal illnesses, and he was doing experiments on them.
Wow.
And yeah, he would take like their body parts out and stuff, and then he would take people that had like terminal diseases, and he had 2 sections that he had inside of that motel. Well, he would tell, like, he would give them things that he would conjure up himself, and say that it was a cure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, these people were paying a lot of money, for their family to get cured. Well, a lot of the family would live far away, so they would communicate, by writing to their loved ones, and they would write back, and communicate. Well, as the people would get worse, and sicker and sicker and sicker, he would finally take them to where they were in so much pain that they were yelling and screaming all the time, and he would move them to another part of the hotel to where the people that weren't as bad couldn't hear them, and he would say, "Oh yeah, they're doing better. They either went home or they're fixing to go home." But what he was really doing was experimenting on them, and he had hired a lady that was writing letters to their family saying, "I'm feeling so much better. They're curing me and all this. Please keep sending money." And they were already dead, and he had them stacked up in the basement in like a freezer. And yeah, it's got a really.
That sounds like that. Where is this Crescent Moon Hotel located?
Eureka Springs.
It's what state?
Arkansas.
Okay. Well, it's not the same one, but I've heard ghost stories about. They called him a serial killer, one of the world's first serial killers. But when the very first state fair, or not state fair, might be in state fair, up in Chicago or somewhere, they had built this doctor, or supposed to be doctor, had built a real elaborate hotel that had secret rooms, passages, and all sorts of things, and he was doing basically the same thing.
Wow.
He was killing people in there. He had an incinerator, so he just burned the bodies. Nobody ever knew what happened to them. And he was doing that during that very first, I want to say World Fair. That's it, World Fair. Something. I want to say it was up around Chicago.
Right.
Wow, I was asking. I was wondering if it was the same place.
Well, they said another thing that started some of the hauntings there is there was a guy that worked there that was a bricklayer, and he fell to his death, and you can rent his room. It's called Michael's Room, and they say you can open the door at nighttime and you can say, like, "Close the door, Michael," and they say he'll slam the door. There's a cat that runs around in there that's supposed to be a ghost. They call it the governor is the name of the cat, and there's a lot of people that stayed there that said they've seen the cat and petted the cat, but it's really not supposed to be there. Taps, they got a full body apparition there whenever they investigated the place. So it's supposed to be, I believe, the most haunted motel in the United States.
Yeah. Yes. I can believe that deal with the door because Daddy did that a few times too.
Really?
The door just open, and we'd say, "Okay, Daddy, come on in, have a seat, shut the door behind you." And as the door shut,
Wow.
had a cup of coffee one day with me and my sister, one of my sisters too. I had 4 sisters, and this one, we were sitting down there just fisting. Their guys was off the bar somewhere, and we're sitting there, and all of a sudden her front door opens. She said, "Come on in, Dad, shut the door behind you." And dang if the door didn't shut. And
Wow.
so we had coffee, and she got up and poured him a cup of coffee and set it on the coffee table next to the couch. And we just went on about our business. And a couple hours later, when my husband and her husband got back, well, she went over there to get that coffee cup out the way, and it was empty.
Wow.
So I've had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
That sounds like
Yeah, it does.
that house would be empty. If I saw that, there ain't no way I could.
Well, I wasn't real worried about Daddy. Now, if it'd been somebody else,
Right.
that might be a different story.
Yeah, that stuff, that's kind of like a snake to me. It kind of scares me. I don't like that kind of stuff. When my grandpa passed away, we had bells hanging in the front room of our old house, and they would ring at nighttime. And my dad would always say, "Oh, it's just Grandpa, walking through the front room."
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Well, Grandpa needs to go on, wherever he's headed."
Go on up, Grandpa.
I guess Daddy stayed at the river. I don't know if the folks down there that bought that place had any issues or not. I've never talked to him again, but I know he didn't follow us back up here, so.
Yeah, well, Scott's going to go to the motel and sleep on the embalming bed for us, and
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of yeses.
yeah.
Brooks is going to sleep in the bricklayer's room.
No.
Mike, where you going to be at, Mike?
I'll stay at another motel and monitor.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, they say that you're pretty much guaranteed to have an encounter there. So
Well, I'll definitely be watching that episode.
yeah, I would like to go down there and do that. That's something that I got on my list to do for sure.
Mhm.
How far is that hotel from Branson, Missouri? The state line.
I'm not real sure. I think it's probably about. Let's see. I'm in Northeast Oklahoma, and it's probably about 2 hours from me, 2.5 hours.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would say it was probably somewhere around there. Probably.
Yeah.
It's a scary looking place.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. It's probably is it in the mountains? In the mountains? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of secluded, I think.
Yes, it's an eerie looking place. It's got out in the driveway. It's got a huge crescent moon out there.
Yeah.
It looks like something off of a Stephen King movie. It's really scary looking. I didn't even know what it was. I accidentally found it. I'd actually was getting married that day, and we arrived early, and it was too early to see the preacher, so we went driving around, and we accidentally drove up into the parking lot of it, and I was like, "Oh wow," because I like old history, and I was like, "Wow, that's a beautiful motel." I mean, it was scary looking, but it had the big windows in it, and it was beautiful. And back then, it was a luxury hotel. Only the rich was able to stay there. So I took pictures of it. And when we got home, I didn't know that this place was haunted. But when we got home, in the pictures, there was people in the windows looking at us that you could see through. And that's what got us looking it up. And then was like, oh God, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So
No honeymoon that night there.
no.
Find a different motel, dear.
Yeah. We
You could have left her
No.
there, but you should have left.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh my God. You know, because I mean this place has got the old vines that's growing up the side of it, you know, and I mean it's
Kind of,
creepy.
is it kind of Victorian looking? Is that,
Yeah,
that's what I'm picturing in my mind, that it's kind of the Victorian era.
it is. It's scary looking too. You can tell when you look at it, it gives off that vibe, you know, that you can just tell that, you know, and you know, and another reason it's probably so haunted too is it's got so much attraction to it now that a lot of the ghost hunters and stuff go there, and they said like
Right.
once a year they have a convention there, and they use Ouija boards in there, and
Mhm.
they try to contact it and stuff like that. So, you know,
That's one thing I won't never mess with, no Ouija board.
no,
No.
No.
My grandson said something one day about going to see that movie Ouija board or Ouija or
Ouija.
whatever. I said, don't you dare.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't want you anywhere near that, even on a movie screen.
No.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
demonic portal.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
can come right through there.
you just asking for trouble with them things.
yeah. It's a lot of people go in there and do that, and I think that probably adds to the energy
Oh,
of
yeah.
that place.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What they brought in, but they never did lock the door behind, too.
Yes.
That might still be there waiting on you. You better be careful.
Right. And you know, you get a lot of those people showing up there at that motel that are involved in that black magic and stuff. You don't know what kind of attachments they have with them that they're leaving there too.
Right.
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 I guess Scott will let us know.
Yeah.
I guess I will.
Call us, Scott. Okay, call us, because
One way to tell you, huh?
If Scott comes out of there saying red rum, we'll know something happened.
Might say, "Here's Johnny." That's another Stanley hotel would be neat.
On its way out.
I've been to the Stanley.
Yeah, Stanley's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'd like to
Yeah.
stay there too. Maybe.
We'll just
I
take
didn't-
a we'll
I
just
didn't
take a
stay
year
there.
off. We'll take a year off and go to all these hotels.
Yeah, just we'll start traveling full time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we need donations, okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we need a large RV.
Gift cards for food.
Yeah, a
Taco
private
Bell.
helicopter. We need a private helicopter. You know.
Oh, my.
So Ellen, was that most of all of your encounters?
Yeah, that's all I can think of. I think
No,
I've got them all.
That's enough.
Yeah, that's pretty good for a lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I mean, everything that you've seen, it goes right along with all the reports. You know, when you read the reports, they for some reason, you know, some parts of the world, these creatures are skinny, and in some parts, you know, you have the larger ones. Where we live, I have mostly seen the skinny ones. Also, I've seen the large one, but the large ones, you don't see them as much. It's more of the tall, skinny, hunched over. To me, I always said it looked like they had a bad back because they had that hunched over. And I had one laugh at me one night. I've had them laugh. Had one try to open the door of my pickup truck. That was pretty scary. But mostly, you know, whistles and they imitate, like cats and cows and dogs and a baby crying, and that's been my experiences with them. I did experience one thing. I don't even know what it was. It was green with yellow eyes. It looked like it had, like frog skin. I don't even know what that was. Still to this day, I have no idea what that was.
Yeah,
Could have been one of your kinfolk.
I don't have a clue either what that could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
What do you think, Brooks?
Yeah, I agree, Scott.
Could have been one of Mike's kinfolk
Well,
trying to spy on him.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that if its legs taste as good as frog legs and it been that big, that'd be a lot of meat.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah, we'd have a good fry.
We'll leave some left over.
Yeah, but that's probably the weirdest thing. I mean, it's all scary, but as far as being out of the, I guess you'd call it the ordinary around here, that was the weirdest thing that was more unexplainable to me. And it was down on the lake. It was by the swamp. So I don't know if it was something that was living in that swamp, or, your mind can take you to a lot of places whenever you really sit down and try to, but I think that whatever it was definitely interested in us, because it was hiding behind that tree watching us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think they're all curious.
Yeah, I
Some
think
of them get a little bit more aggressive, but
yeah, I think they're opportunists. I think they wait around for an opportunity. Even if it's the opportunity to grab a child, to grab some bait that you might leave out somewhere, some food. I think they're just kind of an opportunist. Whatever they can get, they're going to try to get.
yeah.
And of course, we always keep the kids, when we're fishing, we put the kids right in front of us. So, I mean, the whole time we're fishing, we got eyes on them right there. They're like 3 to 4 foot in front of us. And,
I mean, even if you didn't have to worry about all the weird critters around there, you don't want them out of your sight, because the snakes and
yes.
Everything.
Exactly.
fall in, drown.
Yep.
I don't understand how people can just go about their business and not pay attention to what they're doing when they're out somewhere like that.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Some of them,
and I've seen them do it. A lot of parents will come down there with their kids, and they'll let them, take off through the woods and play out there by themselves in the sand or whatever while they're fishing with their backs to them. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
So dangerous.
You turn around, and your child's gone. And, I was raised down here all my life, and I've been into the woods before, and I've got turned around myself and get lost, and have to sit there for a second and think, okay, where am I at?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, me too. Right back here by my place one time, back when I could still get back there.
Yeah, and
I got turned around.
it doesn't take much, does it?
No, it don't.
No.
And then everything starts looking the same. I mean,
Yeah.
Everything, you're like, where am I at?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's and these things, I mean, I'm sure they know it, a lot better than we do.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
They take full advantage of it. It's their backyard.
Yep.
Well, Ellen, I won't keep you any longer. I sure appreciate your time today.
All right. Well, like I said, it wasn't all that exciting. Just
Yeah, it was.
Great
Yep.
stories, Ellen. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, I
Yes.
really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Good storyteller.
yeah, we for sure appreciate you coming on the show and being a subscriber and everything. So we appreciate you.
All right. I appreciate y'all too. I love watching that show.
Well, we
Thank
And
you.
I can't wait for Hunter to get back on the other one.
we are working on that just as hard as we can. We get better news every day.
Amen.
That's right.
Yeah. Are you still recording?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I was going to ask you something, but you might not want it on.
Here, I'll go ahead and end it. Everybody, I want to thank you for joining us. Ellen was a great guest today, and
Yes, thank you, Ellen.
Yes.
yes, great subscriber. So,
It was nice to meet all y'all.
oh,
Kind of.
It was great. We love visiting with you. You had a lot of good information too. I think it's gonna, I like to go over it, and I think there's a lot of good information there. And we'll end it right there. And again, guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. And until next time, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner, and we'll see you on the next one.
See y'all later. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
watching.
Bye. Are you still there, Mike?